The reception hall on Nexus Prime was filled with people from 100 different worlds. Lights sparkled off crystal glasses and expensive clothes. Diplomats talked in small groups, their voices mixing into a soft buzz of conversation. In the corner near the tall windows that looked out at the stars, Sergeant Kyle Bennett stood perfectly still. He wore his full combat armor. The dark plates were scratched and dented from real battles, not parade grounds. His helmet hung from his belt. His rifle rested against his shoulder, pointed safely at the floor. He had been standing in the same spot for 2 hours, watching the crowd with calm, professional eyes. Kyle was 28 years old. He had joined the Marines when he was 18 and had never wanted to do anything else. His face was young, but his eyes were older. They were the eyes of someone who had seen friends die and kept going anyway. Tonight he was part of the security detail for Ambassador Lisa Carter, the human representative to the Galactic Council. The humans were new to the Council. They had earned their place by fighting a brutal war against an alien race called the Krethians. The war had lasted 3 years and killed millions on both sides. In the end, the humans won. Not because they had better technology or bigger ships, but because they refused to quit. The other alien races noticed. Some respected it. Others thought humans were just violent barbarians who got lucky. Kyle did not care what aliens thought about humans. He had a job to do. Keep the ambassador safe. Watch for threats. Stay alert. Simple. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. A group of Elysians entered. Kyle recognized them immediately. The Elysians were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They had been exploring space when humans were still living in caves. Their civilization was built on art, philosophy, and culture. They thought they were better than everyone else. Usually, they were polite enough not to say it out loud. In the center of the group was Princess Velara Tiscan. She was 19 years old and beautiful in the way Elysians were beautiful. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly. Her eyes were large and silver. She wore a dress made of fabric that changed colors as she moved. Jewels sparkled in her long white hair. She had never been in a real fight. She had never been truly afraid. She had never been hungry or cold or desperate. She had spent her entire life in palaces, learning about the greatness of Elysian culture, from teachers who told her she was special because of the family she was born into. The princess and her friends moved through the crowd. Servants brought them drinks in glasses that floated in the air. They laughed at private jokes. Other diplomats bowed slightly when she passed. She smiled at them like a queen granting favors. Then she saw Kyle. She stopped walking. Her silver eyes focused on him. She said something to her friends. They looked at Kyle and giggled. The princess smiled and walked toward him. Her friends followed, excited to see what would happen. Kyle saw them coming. His expression did not change. He had dealt with drunk aliens before. Usually they just wanted to touch his armor or ask stupid questions about human weapons. He would answer politely, and they would leave. This felt different. The princess stopped 3 feet in front of him. She looked him up and down slowly like she was examining something in a museum. Her smile was not friendly. "So this is a human soldier," she said. Her voice was light and musical. She spoke in galactic standard so everyone nearby could understand. "I have heard so much about your kind, the great warriors, the fierce protectors." Kyle said nothing. His orders were clear. Be polite to diplomats. Do not cause incidents. He looked straight ahead, not meeting her eyes. The princess took a sip from her floating glass. "You know what I think? I think humans are just primitives playing dress-up. You discovered space travel, what, 200 years ago? The Elysian Empire was building star cities when your ancestors were still living in mud huts." Her friends laughed. A few other aliens nearby stopped their conversations to watch. The princess walked closer. She reached out and tapped his chest armor with one finger. "And this crude metal shell. Do you know that Elysian nobles use energy shields? They are invisible and far more effective. But I suppose humans need something they can touch, like children need a blanket to feel safe." More laughter. Kyle felt eyes on him from across the room. He could see Ambassador Carter watching, her face tight with worry. This was exactly the kind of incident she had been afraid of. Humans already had a reputation as violent. If he responded with anger, it would confirm every bad thing aliens believed about his people. The princess was not done. "Tell me, soldier, how does it feel to be part of a species that is barely evolved? You are primates, apes that learn to use tools. The Elysian people have moved beyond physical form. We value the mind, the soul, the spirit. You value violence and conquest. You are everything civilization should rise above." She expected him to react. She wanted him to get angry or argue or bow his head in shame. Any of those responses would prove her point. Humans were either violent or weak, either barbarians or cowards. Kyle looked at her then, really looked at her. He saw a teenager who had never experienced real hardship, someone who confused luxury with wisdom, someone who thought being born into the right family made her better than people who had earned everything they had. He felt something, not anger, something like sadness or pity. Then he moved. The room went quiet. Everyone watched as Kyle reached up and unlatched his chest plate. The armor came apart in sections designed for quick removal in emergencies. He set the chest piece on the floor carefully, then the arm guards, then the leg plates. Each piece was placed with precise care. The princess watched, confused. Her smile faded. This was not what she expected. Kyle removed the last piece of armor. He stood in his simple uniform. Black pants, gray shirt, boots worn from years of use. Without the armor, he looked smaller. Just a man. Nothing special. He set his rifle down gently next to the armor. Then he looked at the princess one more time. His face showed nothing. Not anger, not hate, not shame. Just a kind of distant acknowledgement, like someone noticing a child throwing a tantrum in a store. Present, but not engaged. Then he turned and walked away. Not quickly, not slowly. Just walking. His boots clicked on the polished floor. The crowd parted to let him through. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. He walked past Ambassador Carter. She opened her mouth to say something, but he was already gone, disappearing through a side door. The princess stood frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been. Her friends were silent now. The laughter had died. Ambassador Carter hurried over to the princess. "Your Highness, I apologize for—" "Why did he do that?" the princess interrupted. Her voice was smaller now, uncertain. "I insulted him. I mocked his armor, his people. Why did he just leave?" The ambassador looked at the armor sitting on the floor. "Because you were not worth guarding against, Your Highness. You were not a threat. You were just noise." The princess felt something she had never felt before, not anger at being dismissed. Something worse. The terrible feeling that maybe she had revealed more about herself than about him. That maybe the human soldier had seen something in her that she did not want to acknowledge. That maybe she was the primitive one. Princess Valara could not sleep. She lay in her luxurious quarters on Nexus Prime, staring at the ceiling. Her room was beautiful. Soft lights glowed in the walls. The bed was more comfortable than clouds. Music played softly in the background. Everything was perfect. But she kept seeing the human soldier's face. That look he gave her before he walked away. It was not anger. She knew how to handle anger. It was something else. Something that made her feel small. She got up and walked to her computer terminal. She told herself she just wanted to understand why he reacted that way. It was intellectual curiosity. Nothing more. She typed his name into the search system. Sergeant Kyle Bennett. His military record appeared on the screen. The princess started reading. Kyle Bennett had joined the human military at 18. He had fought in the war against the Krethians. The princess knew about the war, but only in the way rich people know about tragedies that happen to other people. Numbers and dates. Nothing real. She kept reading. Kyle had been part of a unit that defended a human colony called New Boston. The Krethians attacked with overwhelming force. The humans were supposed to hold for 6 hours while civilian ships evacuated. They held for 3 days. The princess read the details. No food after the first day. No medical supplies after the second. Communications cut off. No hope of rescue. They fought anyway. Half the unit died. Kyle was wounded twice but refused evacuation until every civilian was safely away. She found pictures. The soldiers after the battle. They looked like ghosts. Thin, exhausted, covered in dirt and blood. Kyle was in one photo helping carry a wounded Marine. His face showed no emotion. Just focus on the task. The princess felt something uncomfortable in her chest. She kept searching. She found records of other battles. Kyle had fought in 12 major engagements. He had been decorated for bravery 4 times. He had saved the lives of 18 soldiers and 43 civilians. The reports were dry and official, but she could read between the lines. This man had faced death more times than she could count. She searched for information about human history. What she found disturbed her more. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire existence, not just against aliens, against each other. For thousands of years they had killed and died over land, resources, ideas, religions. Their home planet Earth had seen wars that killed millions, but they kept rebuilding. They kept trying. They never gave up. The princess thought about Elysian history. Her people had known peace for 10,000 years. They had art galleries and philosophy schools and gardens that covered entire moons. They were proud of never resorting to violence. But she suddenly realized something. The Elysians could afford to be peaceful because they lived far from dangerous parts of space. They had never been threatened. They had never needed to fight. It was easy to be noble when you were never tested. She turned off the computer. Her hands were shaking slightly. She felt something she had never felt before. Shame. The next morning, she told her guards she wanted to see the human marine facilities on the station. They tried to talk her out of it. She insisted. They could not refuse a direct order from the princess. The human section of Nexus Prime was different from the diplomatic areas. No fancy decorations, no art on the walls, just clean, functional spaces. Everything had a purpose. She found Kyle in a training room. He was teaching younger Marines how to fight. She watched through the window. He moved with precise control, showing them techniques, correcting their mistakes. His voice was calm and patient. These were not soldiers to him. They were people he was responsible for keeping alive. When the training session ended, she entered the room. The young Marines stopped and stared at her. An Elysian princess in their training facility. It was like seeing a unicorn in a parking lot. Kyle saw her and dismissed his Marines. Break time. 20 minutes. They filed out, whispering to each other. The princess and Kyle were alone.
She had prepared a speech.
An apology. She had practiced it for an hour. Now all the words felt wrong. Sergeant Bennett, she started. I came to apologize for last night. My behavior was inappropriate. I said things that were offensive and ignorant. I'm sorry. Kyle looked at her. His face was neutral. Apology accepted, Your Highness. I want you to know, she continued. I spent the night reading about your service record. About the war. About New Boston. You and your unit did something incredible. We did our job, he said simply. It was more than that. You held that position for 3 days. You saved thousands of people. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, Your Highness, have you ever been truly afraid? Not nervous or worried, afraid? Like you were certain you were going to die? The princess hesitated. Then she shook her head. No, that is good, Kyle said. It means your civilization has done its job. You have been protected. You have been kept safe. That is not a bad thing. But it means I cannot understand, she said quietly. What I insulted. What you have experienced? Yes, he agreed. You cannot understand. And I hope you never have to. Fear changes people. Combat changes people. Some things cannot be taught. They can only be lived through. Then how can I ever apologize properly? If I cannot understand what I am apologizing for, Kyle almost smiled. Almost. You already did. You came here. You admitted you were wrong. That takes courage for someone in your position. Most people never do that. The princess felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. Elysian nobility did not cry. Can I ask you something? She said. Yes, why did you walk away last night? Why did you remove your armor? Kyle considered the question. Because you were not a threat. My armor is for protecting me from people who want to hurt me or the people I guard. You were just young. You said things young people say when they have never been tested. I was not insulted. I just realized there was no point in engaging with someone who had no context for what they were talking about. So you pitied me, she said. It was not a question. I felt sad for you, he said carefully. You are proud of things you did not earn. Birth is luck. Actions are choices. I respected that you came here today. That was a choice, the princess nodded slowly. She felt like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Thank you, Sergeant Bennett, for your honesty. And for accepting my apology. She turned to leave. His voice stopped her. Your Highness? She looked back. You seem like a smart person. Use this, learn from it. That is what separates good people from bad people. Good people learn. The princess walked back to her quarters. She felt different. The station looked the same, but she saw it differently now. All these diplomats talking about peace and culture. All of it protected by people like Kyle Bennett. People who stood guard while others slept safely. She had learned something important. Civilization was not just art and philosophy. It was also the willingness to defend it. The Elysians had forgotten that. They had been safe for so long they thought safety was natural. It was not natural. It was earned. By people like Kyle. And she had mocked him for it. The alarm started at 3 a.m, station time. Princess Valara woke instantly, her heart pounding. She had never heard that sound before. It was loud and harsh and terrifying. Her guards burst into her room. Their faces were pale with fear. One of them grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the door. She tried to ask what was happening, but they were moving too fast, dragging her through the corridors. All around them, people were running. Diplomats in sleeping clothes, station workers, security guards. Everyone looked confused and frightened. The princess heard explosions in the distance. The station shook. What is happening? She demanded. Krethians, one of her guards said. They are attacking the station. Valara felt ice in her stomach. The Krethians, the species humans had fought. She had read about them in her research. They were brutal and efficient warriors. And they were here. They reached a large assembly area. Hundreds of people were crowded inside, all talking at once. Valara saw Ambassador Carter organizing people, directing them toward emergency bunkers. The ambassador saw the princess and hurried over. Your Highness, you need to get to the secure bunker immediately. What is happening? Why are the Krethians attacking a diplomatic station? Splinter group. They refused the peace treaty. They want revenge against the humans. And anyone associated with humans. The ambassador looked grim. They are targeting the docking bays. No ships can leave. We are trapped. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. People screamed. Then Valara heard a voice, calm, authoritative, cutting through the panic like a knife through water. Everyone listen to me. It was Kyle Bennett. He stood near the entrance, fully armored, his rifle in his hands. 11 other Marines were with him. They looked ready for war. We need to evacuate everyone to the emergency bunker. It is 3 levels down. Station security will guide you. Move quickly, but do not run. Do not push. Help anyone who falls. People started moving. The Marines positioned themselves at key points, directing traffic. Kyle caught sight of the princess and walked over. Your Highness, your guards need to help with evacuation. We need every able person moving civilians, one of her guards protested. Our duty is to protect the princess. The best way to protect her is to get everyone to safety as fast as possible. We cannot defend this position. The bunker is defensible, but we need to get people there now. Kyle did not raise his voice. He did not need to. There was absolute certainty in his words. The guards looked at Valara. She nodded. They left to help with the evacuation. Kyle looked at her. Can you use a computer terminal? Yes. Good, Ambassador Carter needs help coordinating. Go with her. Monitor security cameras. Track enemy movement. We need to know where the Krethians are. Valara wanted to argue. She was a princess. She should be protected, kept safe. But she looked at Kyle's face and remembered their conversation. Good people learn. She nodded and went to help the ambassador. The next hour was chaos. Valara sat at a terminal, watching security cameras as Krethian soldiers moved through the station. They were efficient and brutal. They killed anyone who resisted. Station security tried to fight back, but they were no match. The human Marines were different. They did not fight the Krethians head-on. They set up defensive positions in narrow corridors. They used the station's layout against the enemy. They turned it into a maze where superior numbers did not matter as much. Valara watched Kyle through the cameras. He moved like water, smooth and controlled. He was everywhere at once, coordinating his Marines, adjusting positions, calling out enemy movements. His voice on the radio was always calm. The Creathians pushed forward. The Marines fell back slowly, making the enemy pay for every meter. Valara saw Marines get wounded. She saw one die, cut down by enemy fire. His squad mates dragged his body back with them. They did not leave him. Ambassador Carter was on the radio, calling for help. The nearest fleet was human. They were coming, but it would take time. Hours, maybe more. The Marines had to hold for hours. Valara kept tracking enemy movements. She called out positions to Kyle. He acknowledged every report with a simple "copy that" and adjusted his defense accordingly. She felt useful for the first time in her life. Not because of her title or her family. Because she was doing something that mattered. The Creathians reached the main corridor leading to the bunker. The Marines were down to 9 soldiers. They set up a last defensive line. This was it. If the Creathians broke through here, everyone in the bunker would die. Kyle positioned his Marines with precise care, each one in a spot that gave them maximum advantage. Then he stood in the center of the corridor. The most exposed position, the most dangerous position. Valara watched on the camera. She saw the Creathians mass for their assault. Dozens of them. Against 9 humans, incoming, Kyle said into the radio. His voice was still calm. Stand ready. The Creathians charged. What happened next would stay with Valara for the rest of her life. The Marines fought with brutal, terrifying efficiency. Every shot counted. Every movement had a purpose. They were not panicking. They were not afraid. They were just doing their job. The corridor became a killing ground. The Creathians had superior numbers, but the Marines had discipline and training. They made the enemy fight in a space where numbers meant nothing. Kyle was in the center of it all. Valara watched him move, shoot, reload, move again. He was hit twice. His armor held. He kept fighting. More Marines went down. 6 left, then 5, then 4. Ambassador Carter was crying. Other people in the bunker were praying. Valara just watched. She could not look away. Bennett, you need to fall back, the ambassador said into the radio. We can seal the bunker door. Negative, Kyle replied. They will breach it eventually. We hold here. You are going to die. Maybe, but not yet. He sounded almost amused. Fleet ETA? 53 minutes. Then we hold for 53 minutes. Valara felt something break inside her chest. This man, this human, he was going to die so that she could live. So that everyone could live. He knew it and he was calm about it. She looked at Ambassador Carter. The woman was watching the screen, tears running down her face. Other humans in the bunker had the same expression. Grief and pride mixed together. Then Valara understood. This was what humans were. This was what she had mocked. Not violence. Not barbarism. The willingness to stand between danger and the innocent. The willingness to sacrifice everything so others could survive. On the screen, Kyle and his 4 remaining Marines kept fighting. The Creathians kept coming. It looked impossible. It was impossible. But they held. Valara made a decision. She stood up. Ambassador Carter looked at her. What are you doing? Something I should have done my whole life, Valara said. Something useful. She grabbed an energy weapon from one of her guards. She ran toward the bunker door before anyone could stop her. She was going to stand with Kyle Bennett. She was going to understand fear. Valara ran through the corridors, the energy weapon heavy in her hands. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. She could hear the sounds of combat ahead, explosions, gunfire, shouting in alien languages. She reached the defensive position. Kyle was there with his 3 remaining Marines. They were behind makeshift barriers, firing in controlled bursts. The corridor ahead was filled with smoke and debris. Bodies lay everywhere. Most of them were Creathian. Kyle saw her and his eyes went wide. For the first time since she met him, he looked surprised. What are you doing here? He shouted over the noise. Helping, she said. Her voice shook, but she stood firm. Kyle stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he made a decision. There was no time to argue. No time to send her back. The Creathians would attack again any moment. Get behind that barrier. He pointed to a position on his left. When I tell you to fire, you fire. Not before. Aim for center mass. Do not try to be fancy. Just point and shoot. Understand? She nodded and moved to the position. Her hands were shaking. The weapon felt wrong in her grip. She had never held a real weapon before. Training weapons in palace gardens, yes, but not something designed to kill. Breathe, Kyle said. His voice was closer. He had moved next to her barrier. Slow breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Fear is natural. You use it. You do not let it use you. She tried to breathe the way he said. It helped a little. They are coming, one of the Marines said. Valara saw movement in the smoke. Shadows, lots of them. The Crethians were massing for another attack. This would be the big one. They had enough soldiers to overwhelm the position through pure numbers. Steady, Kyle said. Wait for my mark, the Crethians charged. They screamed as they ran. A horrible sound that made Valara's blood freeze. She wanted to run. Every instinct told her to run. Fire, Kyle said calmly. The Marines opened up. Valara pulled her trigger. The weapon bucked in her hands. Energy bolts flew down the corridor. She missed. She kept firing. She was not aiming, just pointing in the general direction and hoping. Crethians fell, but more kept coming. They were close now. So close she could see their faces. They looked angry and determined. They wanted to kill her. The realization hit like ice water. These things wanted to kill her. Reload, Kyle said. Red button on the side. She fumbled with the weapon. Found the button. The weapon hummed as a new power cell slid into place. She started firing again. Time stopped making sense. Everything was noise and light and fear. She fired until her arms ached. She reloaded. She fired more. Kyle's voice was in her ear the whole time, steady as a rock, telling her when to fire, when to take cover, when to reload. Something exploded near her position. The blast threw her backward. Her ears rang. She could not hear anything. She looked up and saw a Crethian soldier climbing over her barrier. His weapon was pointed at her face. Then Kyle was there. He hit the Crethian with the butt of his rifle. The alien went down. Kyle fired twice. The Crethian stopped moving. Kyle grabbed Valara and pulled her behind better cover. She saw blood on his armor. He was wounded, but he did not seem to notice. You okay? He asked. She nodded. She was not okay. She was terrified, but she was alive. Good, keep firing. They are starting to fall back. He was right. The Crethian attack was slowing. Too many of their soldiers had fallen. The Marines had made the corridor too expensive to take. The Crethians retreated into the smoke. The firing stopped. Valara kept her weapon pointed forward, waiting for them to come back. But they did not. Status, Kyle said into his radio. The two other Marines reported in, both wounded but functional. Kyle checked his own armor. The blood she had seen was from a hit that had cracked one of his plates. The armor had held, but just barely. He looked at Valara. Really looked at her. You did good, he said. I know that was hard. You stayed. You fought. That is more than most people could do. Valara started to cry. She could not help it. The fear, the adrenaline, the knowledge that she had almost died. It all hit at once. She sobbed behind her barrier, still holding the weapon. Kyle did not tell her to stop. He just sat next to her and let her cry. One of the other Marines brought her water. She drank it with shaking hands. How do you do this? She asked when she could speak.
How do you face this and stay calm?
Training, Kyle said. Practice. And knowing that if I panic, people die. So I do not panic. I just focus on the next thing. The next shot. The next order. The next breath. I thought I was going to die. So did I. But we did not. We held them. They cannot take this position. We made sure of that. Ambassador Carter's voice came over the radio. Fleet is 10 minutes out. Crethians are pulling back to their ships. You did it. You held them. The Marines did not cheer. They just nodded and checked their weapons, getting ready for another attack if it came. Valara looked at them. These 4 humans. 3 Marines and 1 sergeant. They had held off an army. They had saved hundreds of lives, including hers, and they acted like it was just another day at work. She understood now. Really understood. This was what she had mocked. This courage, this discipline, this willingness to stand and fight when running would be easier and safer. She had called humans primitive. She had been wrong. They were not primitive. They were essential. Someone had to stand guard. Someone had to face the darkness. Humans were willing to be that someone. 8 minutes later, human ships arrived. Marines flooded the station. The Crethians fled, their attack broken. The station was secure. Valara sat against the barrier, exhausted. Kyle sat next to her. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. She had come here as a spoiled princess who thought she knew everything. She was leaving as someone different. Someone who had faced death and survived. Someone who understood the cost of safety. Someone who would never mock a soldier again. Medical teams arrived to treat the wounded. They tried to take Kyle first, but he refused. His Marines first. Always his Marines first. Valara watched him coordinate the medical evacuations, still calm, still in control. Still doing his job. She had asked him once why he walked away from her insult. Now she knew. He had not been insulted. He had simply recognized that she had no idea what she was talking about. Now she did. The medical bay was quiet. Valara sat in a bed near the window looking out at the stars. Her body was fine. A few bruises, some ringing in her ears that would fade. The doctor said she was lucky. She did not feel lucky. She felt changed. Ambassador Carter came to visit. The woman looked tired but relieved. She sat down next to Valara's bed. Your father is very worried. He wants you to come home immediately. I know. I spoke with him this morning. He was very angry that I left the bunker. Can you blame him? His daughter ran into combat. Valara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, He has kept me safe my entire life. Protected. Sheltered. I thought that was love. Maybe it was. But it also meant I never understood the real world. I mocked Sergeant Bennett because I did not understand what I was mocking. And now? Now I understand. The Elysian Empire has been safe for so long because we live far from danger. We did not earn our peace. We just got lucky with our location. Meanwhile, species like yours stand guard. You fight, you die. So people like me can live in luxury and talk about philosophy. The ambassador smiled sadly. That is a heavy realization for someone so young. I do not feel young anymore. Combat does that. It ages you. Sergeant Bennett is 28, but his eyes are 40. That is what war cost. How is he? He will recover. Cracked ribs, sunburns from plasma fire, minor concussion. He refused treatment until all his Marines were taken care of. Then he tried to refuse treatment entirely. We had to order him to the medical bay. Valara smiled slightly. That sounded like Kyle. Can I see him? He is 2 rooms down. But he is being promoted tomorrow. There will be a ceremony. You should wait until after that. Promoted. To lieutenant. He is also being given command of a new Marine training unit. The military wants him teaching the next generation of soldiers. Valara nodded. That made sense. Kyle was a natural teacher. Patient. Clear. He had taught her how to fight in the middle of combat. He could teach anyone anything. 2 days later, she attended the ceremony. It was simple. No grand speeches, just a ranking officer pinning new insignia on Kyle's uniform and shaking his hand. The other Marines who had fought with him were there. They all looked proud but uncomfortable with the attention. After the ceremony, Valara approached Kyle. He saw her coming and straightened slightly. Still the soldier, even in this informal moment. Congratulations, Lieutenant Bennett. Thank you, Your Highness. How are you feeling? Physically, I am fine. Mentally, she paused. I think I will be processing what happened for a long time. That is normal. Combat is not something you forget, or something you should forget. It teaches important lessons. I learned many lessons. About courage. About sacrifice. About what it really means to protect people. Kyle nodded. You did well. Many people freeze in their first combat situation. You kept fighting. Only because you were there. Your voice kept me focused. That is what leaders do. We keep people focused when everything is chaos. Valara reached into her bag and pulled out a small data chip. I made this for you. It is a recording. A message to the Elysian Emperor. My father. I told him everything that happened. I told him about your actions and the actions of your Marines. I told him that the Elysian Empire owes humanity a debt. Kyle took the chip carefully. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did. My people need to understand what I have learned. We have been arrogant for too long. We thought we were superior because we have culture and art and philosophy, but we forgot that all of that only exists because someone else stands guard. That is a good lesson to learn. I have another request, an unusual one. Kyle waited. I want to attend your training program, not as a princess, just as a student. I want to learn what you teach. Kyle looked surprised. That is a 12-week basic training course. It is physically demanding. Mentally challenging. You would be treated like any other recruit. Good. I do not want special treatment. I want to understand. Really understand? Kyle studied her face. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, I will arrange it. But I am warning you now. It will be hard. You will want to quit. Everyone does at some point. I will not quit. You taught me that on the station. When things are hardest, that is when you need to stand firm. Kyle almost smiled. Almost. 3 months later, Valera stood in a line with 30 other recruits. They were all human except for her. Some of them looked at her strangely. An Elysian princess in human basic training. It was bizarre. But Kyle treated her exactly like everyone else. No special consideration. No easier standards. She ran the same obstacle courses, did the same exercises, faced the same challenges. She was terrible at most of it. She was not strong like the humans. She got tired faster. She struggled with weapons training. But she never quit, even when her body screamed for rest. Even when she wanted to cry from exhaustion. The other recruits started to respect her. Not because she was a princess, because she kept trying, because she never gave up. Because when they had to carry heavy equipment on a long march, she carried her share even though it was harder for her. On the last day of training, Kyle called her to his office. She stood at attention like she had been taught. At ease, he said. He pulled something from his desk. It was a patch. The emblem of his old unit. The one that had held the line at New Boston. I want you to have this. Valera looked at the patch. She knew what it meant. This was from the unit that had saved thousands of civilians. The unit that had fought for 3 days with no hope of rescue. Marines had died earning this patch. I cannot accept this. I am not a Marine. I did not earn it the way they did. You earned it at Nexus Prime, when you left the safety of the bunker and stood with us. When you fought even though you were terrified. That is what this patch represents. Not being the strongest or the best trained, it represents standing when running would be easier. Valera took the patch with shaking hands. Tears ran down her face. She did not try to hide them. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. For teaching me. For showing me what courage really means. You taught yourself. I just gave you the opportunity. Valera returned to the Elysian Empire. She brought back more than just memories. She brought back a new understanding. She spoke to the Imperial Council about the need for military reform, about the need to respect warrior species like humans, about the need to contribute to galactic defense instead of just benefiting from it. Her father resisted at first, but he could not deny what had happened. His daughter had been saved by human soldiers. The entire diplomatic delegation had been saved. Slowly, things began to change. The Elysian Empire established a formal alliance with humanity. They began to fund human military training for Elysian volunteers. It was a small start, but it was a start. Valera kept the patch in her quarters. She looked at it every morning when she woke up. It reminded her of the most important lesson she ever learned. Civilization was not just art and culture. It was also the willingness to defend it. Someone had to stand guard. Someone had to face the darkness. And the people who did that job deserved respect, not mockery. Years later, when the next crisis came, the galaxy knew who to call. Not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because when everyone else ran, humans stood firm. And this time they would not be standing alone.